They handed me dirty plates at my own husband's charity gala. His mother smirked. His business partners laughed. And my billionaire husband, he just stood there. But what they didn't know was that I owned the one thing that could destroy everything they'd built. And I was done playing nice. Before we dive into this story, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't believe how this night turned their world upside down. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Angela Carter. Well, it's Angela Whitmore now, but honestly, after what I'm about to tell you, I went right back to Carter and never looked back. I'm 32 years old, and I built my own tech company from absolutely nothing. Started in my tiny apartment, coding until 3 in the morning, living off ramen noodles and determination. 5 years later, I had a thriving software company that was making waves in the industry. That's actually how I met my husband, Trevor. Ex-husband, I should say. Trevor Whitmore was this billionaire real estate developer, the kind of man who wore custom suits that cost more than most people's cars. When we met at a tech conference, I thought I'd found someone who saw me for who I really was. Someone who respected my mind, my ambition, my drive. We dated for 2 years before he proposed, and I genuinely believed we were building a partnership, a real marriage between equals. But here's the thing about marrying into old money. They never really let you forget that you're new, that you're different, that you don't belong. And when you're a black woman marrying into a wealthy white family, well, let's just say the whispers started on day one. Trevor's mother, Diane Whitmore, was the queen of backhanded compliments. You know the type. Oh, Angela, your hair looks so interesting today. Or, I'm sure you did your best with the table settings, dear. It's very urban. She'd say these things with a smile plastered on her face, like she was doing me a favor by acknowledging my existence. And every single time I tried to talk to Trevor about it, he'd brush it off. That's just how she is. She doesn't mean anything by it. You're being too sensitive. Too sensitive. I heard that phrase so many times I started to wonder if maybe I was going crazy. Maybe I was reading into things. Maybe I should just be grateful to be part of this world. The annual Whitmore Foundation Charity Gala was the biggest event of the year for Trevor's family. It was where all the old money families came together to write big checks, network, and basically remind each other how important they were. This particular year, I'd spent weeks helping organize it, coordinating with vendors, reviewing seating charts, making sure every detail was perfect. I actually thought that maybe, just maybe, this would be the event where his family finally saw me as one of them. The morning of the gala, I was at the Whitmore estate, helping with final preparations. Diane was in her element, barking orders at staff and acting like she was coordinating a presidential inauguration. When she saw me walk in, her face did that thing where she smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. Angela, she said, looking me up and down, I wasn't expecting you so early. Shouldn't you be getting ready? You know how long it takes some people to look presentable. I swallowed the response I really wanted to give and just smiled. I wanted to make sure everything was perfect for tonight, Diane. This event means a lot to the foundation. She waved her hand dismissively. Well, don't tire yourself out, dear. We need you looking fresh tonight. Trevor's business partners will be there. And first impressions matter. Even second and third impressions, she added with a little laugh. I spent the rest of the day questioning every choice I'd made. Was my dress too much? Not enough? Would my hair be judged? Should I have straightened it instead of wearing my natural curls? By the time I got home to get ready, I was already exhausted, and the event hadn't even started. Trevor barely looked up from his phone when I walked into our bedroom. He was always on his phone, always working on some deal. Hey, babe, he muttered. You almost ready? We can't be late to my own event. Trevor, I said, sitting down on the edge of our bed. Can we talk for a minute? He sighed, that heavy sigh that told me he didn't really want to hear what I had to say. What's wrong now? Your mother made some comments today, again, and I just feel like, Angela, please. Not tonight. Tonight is important for the business. Can we just get through tonight without any drama? Without any drama. As if I was the one creating problems. as if wanting basic respect from my husband's family was asking too much. I nodded, swallowed down everything I was feeling, and went to finish getting ready. I wore a deep emerald green gown that night. It was stunning, elegant, and I felt beautiful in it. I'd had my makeup done professionally, and my curls were perfect. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a successful, confident woman. But the moment we walked into that ballroom, I felt all of that confidence start to crack. The Grand Riverside Hotel ballroom was transformed into something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, champagne flowing like water. 300 of the wealthiest people in the city were there, dripping in diamonds and designer labels. Trevor and I walked in together, his hand on the small of my back, and for a moment, I thought maybe tonight would be okay. That moment lasted about 5 minutes. Trevor was immediately pulled away by a group of his business partners. "I'll be right back," he whispered, already moving toward them. Except he wasn't right back. He disappeared into the crowd, leaving me standing alone in a sea of people who looked at me like I was a stain on their expensive carpet. I tried mingling, I really did, but every conversation was the same. "Oh, you're Trevor's wife? How nice." Or, "What do you do, dear?" "Oh, you have a little tech company? How cute." Little. Cute. Like my years of hard work were nothing more than a hobby. Like I hadn't built something real and valuable with my own 2 hands. I was standing near the bar, nursing a glass of champagne I wasn't even drinking, when Diane approached me. She had that look on her face, that fake concern that never reached her eyes. Behind her were 2 other society women, both watching me with barely concealed amusement. "Angela, darling," Diane said, loud enough for people nearby to hear. "I have a teeny tiny favor to ask you." Something in my stomach dropped. I knew that tone. That wasn't a request coming. That was a setup. "What is it, Diane?" She put her hand on my arm, squeezing just a little too tight. "Well, we seem to be having a situation in the kitchen. The catering staff is absolutely overwhelmed and we're short on dishwashers. Can you believe it? At an event this important?" I stared at her, waiting for the actual request, waiting for her to ask me to make a phone call or find a solution. But that's not what happened. So I thought, since you're so good at being helpful, you could pop into the kitchen and help them catch up with the dishes. Just for a little bit. You know, pitch in for the cause. The world seemed to stop. The noise of the gala faded into background static. I looked at Diane's face, at her smug little smile, and I understood exactly what was happening. This wasn't about dishes. This was about putting me in my place. This was about reminding me that no matter how successful I was, no matter that I was married to her son, I would never be one of them. "Diane," I said, my voice shaking but steady, "I'm a guest here. I'm Trevor's wife. I'm not washing dishes." Her smile dropped and her voice got sharp. "Angela, this is a charity event. We all pitch in where we're needed. Don't be difficult." People were starting to stare now. I could feel their eyes on me, could hear the whispers spreading through the crowd like wildfire. And then I saw Trevor walking toward us, and for a second my heart lifted. My husband. He would fix this. He would stand up for me. "What's going on?" Trevor asked, looking between his mother and me. Diane turned to him with her concerned mother act. "Trevor, sweetheart, I just asked Angela to help out in the kitchen for a bit, and she's making a scene." Trevor looked at me, and I saw it in his eyes before he even opened his mouth. He wasn't going to defend me. "Angela, it's just dishes. Come on, don't make this bigger than it is. It's for charity. Just help out for a little bit, and then you can come back to the party." I felt something break inside me. Something that had been cracking for 3 years finally shattered completely. "You want me to wash dishes," I said flatly, "at your charity gala, while you and your business partners drink champagne." Trevor had the audacity to look annoyed. "You're being dramatic." "It's not a big deal." But it was. It was the biggest deal in the world. Because it wasn't really about dishes. It was about every time he dismissed me, every time he'd chosen his mother over me, every time he'd made me feel like I was asking for too much by wanting basic respect. Before I could respond, 2 staff members appeared at Diane's subtle signal. They stood on either side of me, not touching me, but making it clear I was expected to go with them. Trevor had already turned away, heading back to his business partners. I looked around the ballroom at all these wealthy people watching this black woman being escorted to the kitchen like hired help, and not one of them said a word. The kitchen was chaos, steam and heat, and people rushing around trying to keep up with the demands of 300 guests. The staff members handed me an apron, and I stood there holding it, my hands shaking. Through the kitchen doors, I could hear laughter from the ballroom. I heard Trevor's business partner, a man named Gerald, say loudly, "Well, at least they found something to keep her occupied." More laughter followed. I stood at that industrial sink, staring at a pile of dirty dishes, wearing a gown that cost $5,000, and something shifted inside me. The fog of confusion and self-doubt that had been clouding my judgment for 3 years suddenly lifted. I saw everything clearly for the first time. I thought about my company, Technova Solutions. I thought about the revolutionary AI software my team had just finished developing. Software that could revolutionize building automation and smart city infrastructure. Software that Trevor's company desperately needed for their new smart building project downtown. A project worth over $500 million. Trevor had been in negotiations to license my software for months. But here's the thing. He'd been negotiating through intermediaries. He knew I owned a tech company, but he'd never bothered to learn the details. Never asked about my work. Never cared enough to understand what I actually did. He had no idea that the software his entire project depended on belonged to me. I took off that apron and dropped it on the counter. The staff members looked at me, confused, but I smiled at them. It wasn't their fault. None of this was their fault. I walked out of that kitchen with my head held high and I pulled out my phone. My business partner Lawrence answered on the second ring. "Angela? Aren't you at that fancy gala?" "Lawrence," I said, my voice calm and clear. "Cancel the Whitmore deal. All of it. Effective immediately." There was a pause. "Are you sure? That's a huge contract. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Cancel it. And draft a press release announcing that Technova Solutions is pursuing other partnerships. I want it sent out within the hour." I could hear him typing in the background. "Consider it done." "Angela, are you okay?" "I'm better than okay," I said. "I'm done." I walked back into that ballroom, and I swear the air felt different. I felt different. I wasn't the woman who'd walked out of this room 20 minutes ago. That woman had been trying to shrink herself to fit into spaces that were never meant for her. This woman? This woman knew exactly who she was and what she was worth. The charity auction was in full swing, with Diane at the microphone encouraging bids on various luxury items. I walked straight up to the stage, and before anyone could stop me, I took the microphone from her hand. She looked shocked, her mouth hanging open like a fish. "Good evening, everyone," I said, my voice projecting across the ballroom. The crowd went silent. "I hope you're all enjoying this beautiful event. I wanted to take a moment to announce a significant donation to the Whitmore Foundation tonight." I saw Trevor in the crowd, his face confused. Diane was trying to get the microphone back, but I stepped away from her. Technova Solutions will be donating $500,000 to the foundation tonight. Gasps and applause rippled through the crowd. I let them clap for a moment before continuing. "For those of you who don't know, I'm Angela Whitmore, Trevor's wife. I'm also the founder and CEO of Technova Solutions. We just developed the AI software that's set to revolutionize smart building technology. In fact, Whitmore Enterprises was planning to use our software for their new downtown project." Trevor's face went pale. I could see the realization dawning. "Was planning to," I continued. "Because as of 20 minutes ago, that deal is canceled. Technova will be pursuing partnerships with companies that value innovation, respect, and basic human dignity. Companies that understand that genius doesn't come with a dress code or a skin color requirement." The ballroom erupted in chaos. People were pulling out their phones, whispering frantically to each other. Trevor was pushing through the crowd toward me, and Diane looked like she might faint. I handed the microphone to a stunned staff member and stepped off the stage. Trevor grabbed my arm, his face red. "What the hell are you doing?" "We need to talk, privately, right now." I pulled my arm away from him. "Now you want to talk? Now you want privacy? Where was that energy when your mother was sending me to wash dishes? That's what this is about? Angela, you're being ridiculous. You're sabotaging my business over dishes? I laughed, and it wasn't a nice sound. This isn't about dishes, Trevor. This is about 3 years of disrespect. 3 years of you dismissing me, ignoring me, letting your family treat me like I'm beneath them. 3 years of me making myself smaller so you could feel bigger. I'm done. His face changed then, shifting from anger to panic as the business implications started to sink in. You can't do this. The investors, the timeline, everything depends on that software. You wouldn't. Watch me, I said simply. Diane appeared then, her face red with fury and embarrassment. How dare you make a scene at my event? After everything we've done for you? Done for me? I interrupted. What exactly have you done for me, Diane? Made me feel unwelcome in my own marriage? Criticized everything about me from my hair to my clothes to my background? Tried to humiliate me by making me wash dishes at a charity gala? Tell me, what exactly should I be grateful for? She had no answer. For once in her life, Diane Whitmore was speechless. Trevor's phone started ringing, then ringing again. His business partners were surrounding us now, their faces panicked. One of them, Gerald, the same one who'd laughed about keeping me occupied, stepped forward. Trevor, we need to talk. The board is calling. Without that software, the entire downtown project is dead. We're talking hundreds of millions in losses. Trevor looked at me, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. Angela, please. We can work this out. Let's just go home and talk about this. But I was already walking toward the exit. I didn't run. I didn't rush. I walked out of that ballroom like I owned it. Because in that moment, I owned myself, and that was enough. I filed for divorce the next morning, took back my maiden name within a week. Trevor tried everything to get me to reconsider. Flowers, gifts, handwritten letters. His lawyers tried to claim I owed him part of my company since we'd been married when I developed the software. But I had good lawyers too. And ironically, Trevor had insisted on a prenup. What's mine stays mine, and what's his stays his. He thought he was protecting his wealth. He never considered I might have wealth worth protecting. 6 months later, my company landed a deal with 3 major developers in the city. Technova Solutions was featured in Forbes, and I did interviews about building businesses as a woman of color in tech. Trevor's company had to scale back their projects significantly. They lost investors, had to lay off staff, and his reputation in the industry took a major hit. Diane stopped hosting her society events. Apparently, she became somewhat of a social pariah after word got out about what she'd done. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy. Divorce is hard, even when you know it's right. There were nights I cried, mornings I doubted myself, moments when I wondered if I'd overreacted. But then I'd remember standing at that sink, holding that apron, hearing that laughter from the ballroom, and I knew I'd made the right choice. Because here's the truth. Respect isn't something you should have to earn from people who claim to love you. It's something you should be given freely. And if someone can't give you that basic level of human dignity, they don't deserve a place in your life. Period. I learned that night that I'd rather be alone and respected than partnered and diminished. I learned that sometimes the trash takes itself out, and your only job is to make sure you don't go running after it. I learned that knowing your worth isn't arrogant, it's essential. Today, I'm happier than I've ever been. My company is thriving. I'm surrounded by people who value me, who celebrate me, who never make me feel like I need to shrink myself to fit into their spaces, and you know what? I haven't washed a single dish that I didn't want to wash. So that's my story. The night I went from washing dishes to washing my hands of people who never deserved me in the first place. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what you would have done in my situation. And listen, if you're in a relationship where you're constantly made to feel less than, where you're dismissed or disrespected, that's not love. Know your worth. Subscribe to this channel for more real stories about standing up, speaking out, and taking back your power. I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong.